Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining today's webinar session and the first of our Kodiak Embark series, where we'll be demoing our product, along with giving you some more information on how you too can be able to start loving your suppliers very deeply, transforming information into impact. We'll wait just one more minute and let some of the last guests start to file in to the session. Then we'll get into the day's content as well. All right. Alrighty then, the clock has struck 3 p.m. Central European time. Thank you all for taking the time out of your days to be able to join us on today's Kodiak Embark series demo. My name is Sam Jenks. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at the business, and I'll be guiding you today through our session, learning a little bit more on this Valentine's Day special of how to love your suppliers, focusing on transforming information into impact. This is a very special series. It's going to be a three-part series where we're going to be diving deeper in our platform and different capabilities in our platform. Today, we're going to focus again on how we can be able to manage information in the platform, but really more so turn that into insights and actionable intelligence surrounding your supplier platform as well. I'm also joined in the background today by Richard Teuchler, who is our performance marketing lead. He is going to be helping me out with some handouts that will be provided, which, for example, the day's slides will be shared, as well as the recording will be shared with everybody. Additionally, there will be some CTAs that will be popping up on screen during the day session. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them down in the chat line, and we'll get around to them during the Q&A session, which will be around the last 3 to 5 minutes of the session following the demonstration as well. As always, I'm also joined today by my additional co-host, Charlie, the office dog. Charlie is opinionated. He's passionate about supplier management. So if you hear a bark in the background, it's either him just giving his point of view on today's content, or I've maybe gotten mail in my apartment where I am broadcasting from. So hopefully we will not have to hear too much for him. We also would like to wish everybody, again, a very happy start to your week and to your Valentine's Day by a little bit of a love letter from our creative lead, Dave. I'm not sure if you've maybe seen this today on our social, but I wanted to quickly start with a quick little message from him that he wanted to write to you and to all of your suppliers.
Letter to suppliers. Dear supplier, in this dance of commerce, our collaboration blossoms and blooms. A supplier turns strategic partner, enchanting my boardroom. Your performance, like my heart, pounding harder every beat, as we innovate together and achieve extraordinary ESG feats. Your quality, so consistent, makes every delivery a beautiful gift, and sustainability, our shared commitment to making the big shift. With KPIs so aligned, like the stars when I first met you, we turn supply chains into symphonies, a melody so resilient and so true. So let's grow old together and renew this contract again and again. Down on one knee, here's my RFP for a partnership that never ends. Love, Procurement. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Aw, thanks, Dave. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well, and appreciate that lovely sending of some love from procurement to our suppliers. So let's dig a little bit more into the day's content, understanding how we can continue to love our suppliers. I'm going to share the materials again here on screen. And we're very happy today to be able to see a blend of existing customers, consultants, prospective partners, as well as then interested parties in today's Embark demo. For those that maybe don't know about who we are at Kodiak Hub, I wanted to provide some quick background from a conceptual perspective before we dive directly into the demo after the content of today. Short about us, we're an SRM platform within the space of ProcureTech. We're helping procurement and sourcing professionals like many of you to be able to build really smart and sustainable supply relationships. Our solution provides an ecosystem of modules and tools, as you can see on screen, to manage supplier information, risk, compliance, performance, collaboration as well, all from one place. And during the course of today's Embark demo, we'll definitely dive deeper into the Kodiak Hub platform, providing an understanding of how an SRM solution can really help you to get closer to the pulse of your supply chain and really help you to transform your supplier information into real supply chain impact with those types of actionable insights that you can have as an output. With that said, I want to get on to today's agenda for the webinar. We have some quick points before we get into the demo, which is really to understand the playing conditions, right? The 2024 winds are blowing towards SRM. What does that mean for you and your business? Well, we'll cover that before we get into the demonstration, and then the final session for a quick Q&A. I was maybe a little bit ambitious by saying that the intro of the kind of background about SRM in 2024 will only be 2 minutes. Probably going to look at more like 3 to 5 minutes of content there before we get into the demonstration, but always nice to be able to set the scene and provide an understanding of what's happening in the trend. So without any further ado, let's get directly into the content. As you all experience, maybe on a day-to-day basis, a global supply chain entails a real ocean of information, an ocean of data. And for every supplier, a procurement team, a supply chain team might manage, that single supplier can maybe hold hundreds, if not thousands of data points in their system. Multiply that by a few hundred or thousand suppliers. Well, you have a critical mass of data that is pretty difficult to manage. It requires structure, framework, tools, and processes that are orchestrated together to make sure that you have control and automate a lot of that manual work. Otherwise, it can be pretty overbearing. Sadly, as our CEO and co-founder Malin Schmidt says very often, procurement is drowning in information and really starved for knowledge. And I'm curious, you might recognize this feeling. Do you recognize some of these issues? These are some of the common problems that we hear from procurement teams, right? They have too many systems or fragmented processes. There's no real central repository of procurement data or documentation. The business teams, whether it's procurement, sustainability, quality, risk compliance, legal, they're all working within their own flows, which makes things complicated. And also, teams are very fragmented, which can lead to maverick spend as well. The bottom line is, and I think that you already know this, but you're not alone, right? Many procurement teams suffer from the complexities of procurement, the processes that they're lacking digital tools for and support, and especially within supplier management. This is nothing new. A perfect example of this that we see highlighted over and over is the process flow of a supplier onboarding and approval qualification process, right? One of the aspects that our solution can be able to help with. There was a survey that Zip took of over 1,000 businesses, and over 50% of the respondents that responded to that particular survey said that their business requires 6 cross-functional approvals for a vendor approval, where they have 27% of their respondents saying that they need more than 10 approvals. Data and information needs to flow between multiple parties in an orchestrated manner. If this is happening in a manual context, it is very stagnant. And without good process, underpinned with good tooling, this can become a real problem. And as seen on screen here, this is how a solution like Kodiak Hub can be able to really orchestrate a symphony, applying a best-of-breed solution like ours over top of a process and really the legacy solutions of an ERP or an S2P solution with a more nimble approach can be able to help really turn that cacophony of data, which can otherwise sound like a mess, into a real symphony of simplicity in managing your suppliers. Really a symphony and orchestrated value between these different processes. And if you're not already doing things to be able to align on these different processes, it's important that you try and focus on that in this upcoming year, which is, of course, where we'll double click today during our demonstration. A true example of this is really transforming supplier information into impact is getting closer to the tiers of your relationship. Another big aspect within any business currently today. These are two pillars of any strategy in 2024. The bottom line is that you have requirements on your procurement team today to create resilience in the supply chain and create carbon reductions in emissions like never before. ESG is, tattooed on everybody's forehead in procurement today. And the bottom line is that that is a tall task if you're not close to the pulse of your supply chain. I'm not, selling anything that's novel here. You all know this. You're living it on a day-to-day. But there was a recent report that struck me pretty strong. Accenture in 2023, tail end of 2023, came out with a report that said that beyond the tier one, these particular suppliers represent 64% of total upstream emissions. So everyone is searching for that silver bullet to get closer to their suppliers. The bottom line is there isn't one, right? True resilience within your supply chain requires that you get close to your tier one suppliers. You understand the intricacies of your supplier base. You map your supply chain dependencies, your risk, but you also try and find areas in which you can be able to reduce dependencies or vulnerabilities. Nearshoring is happening, friendshoring is happening, right? We're seeing a lot of these trends moving within supplier management, which is really helping businesses to be able to get closer to the pulse of their supply chain, whether that's being done physically, actually, with the businesses they're choosing to partner with, or with the help of technology. The one thing that it's important to never forget really is that, and one of the main reasons as to why SRM is so important, why loving the relationships with your suppliers is so important, having good tools to help you out to do so, is because tier N really starts with tier one. If you're close to the pulse of your tier one suppliers, you will be able to create that real resilience that you require to be able to succeed in 2024 and beyond within your supplier management, within your broader procurement strategy. And, I'm slightly biased in this. I think that SRM is great, but that's also because I work for a vendor of SRM technology. Don't just take it from me, right? Look at some of these statistics on screen. It's obvious. The tribe has spoken. This is a strategic priority. Businesses notice that this is needed in the enterprise to be able to orchestrate the way that they work and really reduce the resources that they're putting on SRM practices. People see that this leads to increased collaboration, both in their teams, but also with their suppliers. And finally, of course, it gives you that strategic edge that you need, but also the tactical insights that you need to be able to walk into your next supplier negotiations, not only respecting, the part that's on the other side because you know more about them, but also giving you that negotiation power that so many of you are looking for, of course. SRM programs and solutions, really offer great opportunities to manage risk, drive compliance, ensure that you're working with high performers and collaborate. But when it is all said and done, it also helps you to turn information around your supplier base into real impact. So now what I would love to shift over to is to some practical examples within our platform, how we see our clients today turning their supplier information into impact. Again, this is going to be the first of many within this series. Each individual episode of this three-part series, we're going to focus on a different part of the platform, introducing to you bit by bit how the solution can be able to help you build a really 360-degree view of your suppliers and help you to be able to drive excellence in your supplier relationships. So I'm going to switch over my screen here. Here we are. Hope that everyone can be able to see my screen well. And welcome to the Kodiak Hub solution. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to be guiding you through some pretty significant parts of our platform, showing also how we help our clients, again, to turn supplier information into actionable insights and transversely, of course, into real impact in their supply chains. What meets us in this landing page that I'm looking at here is our suppliers around the globe. What you see here is that we can zoom in very quickly. We can also be able to extend upon, on the top bar here, the filtering capabilities. Filtering exists throughout the solution. This allows us to be able to, customer by customer, build out your typifications, segmentations, category trees to help you to be able to segment your supplier base and really determine which suppliers you want to be able to filter around the solution. So these are global filters. They exist based upon your unique supplier information. Each of these individual suppliers that you see here, these particular suppliers are then going to be mapped on the map where they're located. And you can also be able to click on them individually to be able to see their individual supplier rating. We'll get around to what the rating means in just a moment. One of the factors of that particular rating, as you see here, is the color coding within these individual countries. Each individual country has, as we call it, a safe source rating. Safe source is a rating that our team of impact data managers has created based upon 39 internationally recognized indices that is helping our clients to be able to understand environmental, social, financial, and geopolitical risk in the countries, the context in which they might be sourcing. So, for example, if we dive into an individual supplier scorecard, we can see that we as a supplier, Kodiak Hub, are located within Sweden. We can also be able to expand upon the risk related to Sweden, giving us an understanding of the, again, social, environmental, financial, and geopolitical risks in this country. And we can expand upon the individual areas as well to better understand the individual indices that this data is feeding back from. It does not say anything about a single supplier, but this gives us a lot of insight into the context in which we are sourcing. If there are low labor rights or human rights risks, well, then maybe that's something for us to dig deeper into in our due diligence. If there's poor economic stability or a high tradability risk, well, maybe we should be hedging for things in our contracts with suppliers in that country. Loving your suppliers means also making sure that you have a really 360-degree view of that supplier. The context in which they exist is just a first snapshot of that image that you're trying to create. If we go back to the map overview, we can also be able to see here that we can see an overlay of disasters that have happened around the world or are still ongoing. These individual disasters are an overlay, and this is then a third party of the GDACS data source. You can also be able to see exactly the coordinates of this particular disaster, whatever it might be. And you can also double click to be able to see the actual source of the disaster that has been listed, whatever it might be. If it is a low, high, or medium disaster, that is also quickly indicated to you as you see based upon the color coding on the map as well. And you can, of course, determine what is the climate or the disaster alert that is then being identified. We're going to jump into some different interfaces now for the next portion of this. The Insights interface is where we're going to spend most of the time, spending a lot of time surrounding the supplier information management and also then showing the real output and impact within the supplier scorecards, which is really a control center. And I would say probably one of the more significant interfaces on our platform as well. But just to give you a quick orientation of the solution for those that aren't clients and are here in more of an educational perspective for as a prospective partner, the Insights tab is where you're going to dig deeper into the insights about your suppliers, your contracts, your documents, your products and services that you're being provided with. It's where you can be able to add new supplier data, import supplier data, export supplier document data. It's also where you can be able to filter your supplier lists as you see fit, or you could be able to toggle to previously saved supplier lists as well. Say that I'm a category manager. Well, then, of course, I can be able to have a unique supplier list saved as my preset that I can always be able to see when I jump in. That's very simple for me to be able to manage these different headings. I can be able to choose what are the different data columns, for example, that I want to have visualized for me. I can be able to see those things here, just in the same way that I can also additionally search for example, different types of typifications and utilize these typifications to filter down the supplier base and the view that I'm seeing of my suppliers as I would like to in that case, just in the same way that I can quickly be able to search for one individual supplier and dive into their individual supplier scorecard from here as well. The impact section, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the impact section today. We're going to focus more on the impact module next week when we talk more about collaboration and performance surrounding the supplier base. The impact section is where you can be able to build up your templates, run campaigns, and get back reports. It is the same workflow for a user within the self-assessments as it is in the audits, as it is in the performance evaluations. And then this is also where you can toggle over to the action space. The action space, again, is going to be one of the areas where we focus a lot on during the next session. But this is where you can be able to communicate, where you can be able to manage corrective actions or development actions, where you can also just be able to manage different types of ongoing comms with your supplier. So you have a backtrack of all of that communication as well. Underneath these individual action areas, you can be able to communicate back and forth. The different types of communication is shared between you and your supplier. You can upload documents, you can request documents. And as you see here, you can also be able to start subsections or sub actions underneath a broader action. This is a shared portal between you and your supplier that they access via smart links in their email. You can also be able to manage these actions, not just with the supplier, but also internally to be able to manage internal tasks surrounding a supplier. The last tab is then the intelligence tab. We're going to spend some more time on the intelligence tab in deeper sections of this demonstration as well. But just to be able to quickly show off the intelligence tab is where you're going to be able to really dig deeper into various reports. The reports are then able to be built up as you see fit. As you see here, you can be able to toggle over to various reports that might be things that are, for example, shared with you or reports that you have built yourself. Say that, for example, again, using the example that I am a category manager and I want to build up a report of my category so I can always share that with my line manager. I can be able to have that saved and ready to go, reducing then the number of barriers to information and insights as well. All of these different widgets, there's various things that are out of the box. We also have pivot table capabilities, but also directly from this interface, we can be able to do things like compare and contrast suppliers as we see fit, but we can also be able to spot different suppliers and different groupings and directly, again, jump back into their supplier interfaces and their supplier scorecards from this particular interface as well. The scorecard, a control center. This is the interface that has everything from information all the way to the impact that this supplier has on your top line, right? This particular supplier, you can be able to expand upon the data properties associated with them. All of the data is sitting here. This could be then contact details, things linked back to the relationship or the contract with this particular supplier, the information required of them that you might be gathering back from the supplier in a self-assessment or an onboarding activity, which you can be able to do with the modules that we have in the platform. So any type of request that you make from them, they will then have to get back to you with the data that you will be able to then have them self-manage as well in their interfaces. You can take notes internally. Again, keeping everybody in the loop, increasing collaboration within the team surrounding this particular supplier. Additionally, I can be able to turn directly information into insights. As you see here, the input of a VAT or a company registration number is directly providing me with a snapshot of the credit score of this particular business. This credit score is then driven by a third-party provider that has an AI solution, pulling data from various data sources, allowing our clients to be able to be visualized with a quick snapshot of the credit rating. Another input of like information turning directly into insights that you can turn around and make impact with is the media insight. This allows us to be able to get a snapshot by doing a quick search of a business or a website of a business that we can be able to see different types of data and documentation or different types of articles where this business has popped up in the news. We can also directly from this interface, if we would like to, dive into those individual articles as we see fit as well. Heading back to the interface, another aspect where information, such as the corporate entity name, can be turned into real impact, well, sanctions. Political exposure, sanctions is incredibly important nowadays. The geopolitical status of the world is changed, and it's important to know who you're working with and why you're working with them, right? If you want to be able to see the adverse media, the sanctions, politically exposed persons, but also a quick link to all of those subsidiaries, as well as then the special interest persons or politically exposed persons, you could be able to see so further down here. All of this safe source premium is then populated directly based upon the input of the company entity, which I've done a search here on Microsoft Corporation. As you understand, Amplexor is not a real supplier. With that being said, we can be able to get super granular and really turn this around again, the information into impact, understanding, well, who are those subsidiaries associated with this business? Who are the politically exposed persons or persons of interest? And for example, also, why are they listed as such? Are they still a threat to us? Or is it okay with us that we're working with this particular business? What other companies might this individual be linked to? So forth and so on. So that was a quick snapshot of how simple data inputs can really drive some significant actionable insights that you can drive impact with your supplier base with the third-party data directly feeding into the platform. Additional aspects of information turning around into insights, well, the data input of the country code, for example, as you see here, which we could be able to quickly search for, the country of the United Kingdom, is directly then feeding us with a safe source rating. This is that country economic, geopolitical, financial, as well as then the social and environmental aspects in a country. Another area where we can turn information around into insights is, of course, within the supplier's business practices. When you're able to reach out to them in self-assessments or alike, or in the onboarding context, well, you might want to ask them questions about their mode of operating. Each of these individual sections where you're gathering back more information or insights about the suppliers, where that might otherwise be data that's just lost in a spreadsheet or stands stagnant in a PDF file, we're turning it into real insights. The documentation that they provide us with, if they say that they do have policies or documentation, well, then all of that data and documentation is saved further down on the page. We could be able to quickly find those documents based upon their typification. Labor rights policy, boom, pull it forward right away based upon the typification. We can also be able to keep other documents here, not just things that the supplier has shared with us, but also things, for example, like commercial agreements, frame agreements, contracts, so forth and so on. And we do have a native integration with DocuSign as well. So you can directly send documents to signing from our platform. You can also be able to see those documents in their status of where they are in signing, as well as then download those documents as well after they have been signed as well directly in the platform. The last instance of turning information into impact is within performance, those KPIs that I'm sure that many of you are following up on, helping you to be able to turn around evaluations or data that's sitting in your ERP solution into a real insight, into a real impact. For example, you can set up thresholds based upon your acceptance criteria and your unique KPIs underneath these 6 different areas. And then you can be able to follow up over time. So how is the value progression of this supplier going related to on-time delivery? Well, we can be able to see that value progression because we've set up a threshold related back to the figure in which we want to be able to see. So we've determined what is excellent, what is poor, and then we're providing a numerical and quantifiable value, helping us to then track this over time on various insights, whether that's related back to the performance, the unique performance KPI, but also the sustainability and sustainable practices aspects of this particular supplier as well. There is a lot more to go through, individual reports, assessments, so forth and so on. But I think that that is a good place to pause as we have different sessions of this where we're going to be picking up deeper next week surrounding then collaboration within the action space, as well as then performance management of the supplier base in various aspects. So please do feel free to tune into that particular session as well. Additionally, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If you would like to book in a deeper demonstration of the platform, you can feel free to be able to do so. As you see here, there's directly a call to action on screen here. Feel free to book in a demonstration by clicking directly on that particular link, and you can be able to directly find some time with our team. I see that there is some questions that have come in to the chat bubble, but I would also like to pause now and allow everybody to be able to ask their questions that they might have. So we're going to shift now over to the Q&A. But again, the CTA is on screen. If you would like to go ahead and provide us, book some time with our team, then go ahead and do so now. So there was a great question that came in from a attendee, Wooter. Thank you very much for your question. The question was, uh, with regards to risk data from suppliers, I understand that there's a rich source already available in Kodiak Hub. True. Can I also add personalized risk data that I have collected and integrate into these ratings of the supplier? You can absolutely be able to do so. The data that is collected and provided or visualized is then being visualized based upon the response values primarily from suppliers. But if you also want to ingest data into then the responses that are either in the self-assessments or the audits or the performance evaluations, you can do so as well. We do also have other capabilities for visualizing more risk data sources, right? So for example, we have clients that have integrations with EcoVadis. We have clients that have integrations with Integrity Next. We have clients that are integrating other third-party risk solutions that are surrounding credit, for example, such as Credit Safe and or Dun & Bradstreet. So there's various ways in which you can be able to get more third-party insights into the platform as well, beyond the risk data sources that are our third-party preferred vendors, but also those that are then being fed in the sustainable practices areas, as well as then the country risk areas. Rajan, you are in luck because as you see here now, we're going to be actually sharing the handout. So as you see, I've now pushed over the handout. So please just feel free to download the handout if you would like the version of the slides that has now been shared with everybody. And again, if you would like a deeper demonstration on the left-hand side of the screen, feel free to press on book a demo and feel free to go ahead and find some time in the calendar link that works for you and your team as well. With that said, thank you all so much for attending today's first of 3 in the Embark webinar series. We're going to dive deeper again next week into collaboration and performance, and we're looking forward to doing so. Hope you join us back there again. Have a good rest of your day.
A love letter to suppliers. Dear supplier, in this dance of commerce, our collaboration blossoms and blooms. A supplier turns strategic partner, enchanting my boardroom. Your performance, like my heart, pounding harder every beat, as we innovate together and achieve extraordinary ESG feats. Your quality, so consistent, makes every delivery a beautiful gift, and sustainability, our shared commitment to making the big shift. With KPIs so aligned, like the stars when I first met you, we turn supply chains into symphonies, a melody so resilient and so true. So let's grow old together and renew this contract again and again. Down on one knee, here's my RFP for a partnership that never ends. Love, procurement. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.